Welcome to Section 11.2, the areas of parallelograms and triangles. The objective is to find the area of parallelograms and triangles. For homework, we're going to work on page 519 to 521, numbers 2 through 32 evens. So the first thing we want to do is investigate the area of the rectangle. Well, what is the area of the rectangle? Area of the rectangle is length times width, 8 feet times 2 feet, which is going to be 16 feet squared. Let's actually figure out why. 2 feet means 1 foot on either side. 1 foot on either side, I should say. 8 feet across means that we have 8 units. Going across. Now, this is 1 unit and 1 unit, and 1 all the way across. So if we think about what each one of these boxes represents, it's 1 foot by 1 foot, whose area is going to be 1 square foot. Count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have 16 of them. And that's actually what area is. It's the number of single square units that a figure possesses. So now let's talk about the area of the parallelogram. Area of our parallelogram, well, what we see here is we have a height that's formed, and it'll end up with a right angle formed with it. Now, when we actually think about what this thing is, we have this piece in the middle here, and if I drew in another height on the other side, we would see that I would have 2 right triangles with a rectangle. So what we actually have here is we have a triangle that's formed here, which can be slid over to the other side, because we know opposite sides are congruent. And another triangle here where the same thing ends up happening. So what we end up having here is a rectangle being formed. It's just a shifted rectangle, which means that our area formula is going to stay the same. Area is going to be base times height. Now the trick to this is that the base and the height have to be perpendicular. So what we see here is I had a base of 12, which is going to be the span of my parallelogram, and my height of 9. The two pieces need to form either an L or a T, and we're just going to multiply them. 9 times 12 is 108 square feet. So here's another parallelogram example. We have a parallelogram with sides 10 and 8 with an altitude of 12. The area formula is going to be base times height. Now, we see my height is formed right over here. It's going to be a height of 12. We need to form a T with it. So that would have to be my base. Since opposite sides are congruent, my base would be 10. 10 times 12 gives me 120 square units. So now here's one for you to try. I want you to find the area of a parallelogram whose sides are 14 and 6 and whose acute angle is 160. Press pause and let's see what we can do. Alright, well here I go. I'm going to draw out a nice parallelogram here because I can. And now I'm going to start marking it up. We have parallelogram whose sides are 14 and 6 and whose acute angle is 60. Well, one of my angles is going to be obtuse. The other is going to be acute, because we know same side interior angles are supplementary. So here's my 60-degree angle. So here we go. What are we going to do? We're going to drop down in altitude. Now, you might say, what does that do? Does it split it into 7 and 7? Maybe 5 and 9? We don't know. But instead, what we have here is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. What we need is that altitude. Now, if opposite my 90 is 6, then opposite my 30 is 3. Therefore, opposite my 60 is 3 root 3. So here we go. Let's do this. We have, for our area of our parallelogram, we have base times height. And 14 times 3 root 3 is 42 root 3 square units. And we're set. So next we're going to talk about the area of a triangle. Now, Some of you already know what that formula is. That formula is going to be 1/2 the base times the height. Do you actually know why it is that? Well, here's what we got. If we have a rectangle that we draw out, and we go ahead and we draw in those diagonals, what we have here is we know the area of a rectangle is going to be base times height. A triangle is just exactly half of my rectangle, which is how the formula is derived. It's half of a rectangle. Now, once again, in this formula, 1/2 base times height, the base and height have to be perpendicular. So here we go. We want to look for those T's and we want to look for those L's. Here's my height. It's perpendicular with my base. So my area formula, 1/2 4 times 6, which is going to be 12 square feet. Okay, I have 3 examples for you to try. Try that first one, press pause, and let's see what you can do, and we'll keep moving forward from there. So for that first one, we want to look for the right angles. We want to form that T or L. Here's the pieces that we need, and we have them both. 1/2 the base 15 times the height 10 is going to give me 75 square centimeters. For our second one, here's our base. We have a base of 7. Now, its height has to be formed from a vertex. So when we have our height here, our height is actually an external height, which is okay. Now, when we're trying to find out the area of this part out here is not included. All we want for our base is going to be a full side length. Our height has to be a distance that's going to be perpendicular to the side or an extension of the side. So here we go. 1/2 base 7 times height 8 gives me 28 square millimeters. Okay, our last one. In case I jumped the gun, I'm going to give you a chance to press pause, and let's see what you can do. Okay, so here we go. We're going to try and find the base of a triangle with an altitude of 15 and an area of 60. Altitude is just a fancy word for our height. So here we go. Area of a triangle, which is 60, equals 1/2 my base, which is unknown, times my height, which is 15. Now again, I don't like dealing with any fractions, so I'm going to get rid of that fraction by multiplying both sides by 2. And that gives me 120 equals 15b. And let's go ahead and let's divide both sides by 15. That gives me a base of 8. Now, is that feet? Is that centimeters? We don't know, so we're going to call it 8 units. Now, it's not units squared. The only time it's going to be squared is when we're talking about area. Okay, here's our last example, some multi-figures. For our first one, what we have is we have a triangle that's mounted on top of a rectangle. So let's talk about the area of that triangle first. We need those perpendicular pieces. In this case, the perpendicular pieces form a lovely L. So we're good to go. Area of a triangle is 1/2 of my base 9 times my height 12, which is going to be 54 square units. Now, my rectangle. I know what my base is, or I know what my height is, I should say. It's 6. I need to find out what my base is. Opposite sides are congruent, so if I can figure out what the top is, I know what the bottom is as well. So here we go. In a right triangle, we're going to do Pythagorean's theorem. 9 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared. 81 plus 144 equals x squared. 225 equals x squared, and when I square root it, x equals 15. If that's 15, so is the bottom. Opposite sides are congruent, or right angles are formed on all pieces. So here we go. The area of that rectangle is base 15 times my height 6, which is going to end up giving me 90 units. Now let's go ahead and let's add this. Adding it up, the total area is going to be 144 square units. You try this last one, the area of the trapezoid. Press pause and let's see what you can do. Okay, so here we go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rectangle in the middle, formed by right triangles on both sides. Now, in a rectangle, opposite sides are congruent. So if that's 12, this is 12. 18 and 18. I'm going to do Pythagorean's theorem and solve for AZ. 12 squared plus x squared equals 15 squared, which I'm pretty sure I actually saw numbers similar to that somewhere, right above here. I had a 12, I had a 15, I know my other side is going to be 9. On my other side, I need to know what my base is. Pythagorean's theorem. X squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. X squared plus 144 equals 169. Subtract my 144. X squared equals 25. When I square root, x equals 5. So let's go ahead and separate our pieces. My first triangle. 1/2 my base of 5 times my height of 12 gives me 30. My rectangle in the middle. My base 18 times my height 12 gives me 216. And last but not least, another triangle. 1/2 my base 9 times my height 12 gives me 54. I want to add up all of those different areas. 216, 30, and 54 gives me a total of 300 square units. And we're set. Here's our homework answers. Again, it was problems 2 through 32, the evens, and section 11 too. If you have any questions, please make sure you ask them tomorrow, and as always, have a good one.